Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Valves Opened, a Valvetronic Designs podcast. This is episode 3, and today we have a very special guest, a BMW owner and aficionado, as well as a watch dealer and collector, Mr. Alex Seranno, also known as No Waitlist on Instagram. Alex, welcome.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you having me.
Of course,
this
of course.
Is a fantastic day. We had a great morning. And,
you guys on the main line?
Yeah, we were at Mainline Cars and Coffee. So appreciate you guys having me. I'm pretty excited to be on here.
Of course, you guys will notice as viewers that we're not in our normal spot. I apologize to you, Alex. We have a GT3 RS going on back there, getting a full exhaust.
I can hear that.
Austin's new vehicle, so we'll hear some background noise and stuff, but this is a pretty decent background. Like
no, honestly, the couch I think is much more comfy than the office chair, so thank you guys.
I agree.
Appreciate it.
And you went up to Connecticut yesterday to pick up the 3RS, Brandon?
Yeah, I went up there. Yeah. Alex, you were supposed to come.
I know, what happened. I got a dog.
Yeah, the dog.
I can't leave the dog too long, but no, it's cool. I'm very, very happy for Austin. He picked up really nice car, so stoked. But it's all good. But let's dive right into it.
Yeah, I was just gonna start, if it's okay with you, early life. So I listened to you on another podcast, and you were talking about you grew up in Northeast Philly. Is that correct?
Yeah. So I grew up in Northeast Philadelphia, a little bit outside. It's a small section called Pine Valley.
Okay.
And not really too known for the Philadelphia area. It's right on the line of Philadelphia, but grew up there my whole life.
Yeah.
So
how was life overall growing up? How was academics? How was school? Did you enjoy your time?
No, honestly, growing up academically, I was never really that good. So it was pretty challenging for me to get through school because all I wanted to do was go home and just play video games.
Yeah.
I felt that.
Yeah.
That was me too.
Yeah. So growing up was sort of just me waiting for myself to get older so I could do fun stuff. And I guess video games is really what started the whole car thing. Playing Test Drive Unlimited 2 and, Midnight Club LA, those free roaming car games.
What's the best one overall? What's the best?
I just have to resort back to Test Drive Unlimited 2 because that was the first game that really you could drive anywhere, any car. You sort of had your house that you could build and stuff like that. So, I would sit there and play video games and play that game specifically. And I would just sort of block myself out from real life. And, to me, that was real life. I was driving a Ferrari down this windy road. So, that always just was my thing. I just wanted to be older so I could do that sort of stuff. Mm-hmm. And, obviously life has taken me pretty crazy places, which we'll get into, I guess.
They're coming out with the Test Drive Unlimited 3
serious?
In November.
Oh.
So I already pre-ordered it because that is also one of my favorite games. I used to go over to my friend Austin, my best friend at the time. He had all the cool Xbox gear that my parents would
there's always that one friend.
So we would go to his house and we would all play, and Test Drive Unlimited was one of the games, and we would go. I think he got to the point where he unlocked the hypercar dealership so we could go to the Bugattis. And he had one of the best houses. Yeah. And all we would do is rip a Bugatti Veyron up and down the entire map for hours upon hours upon hours. And it was the most fun I think I've ever had as
sweet.
a kid.
Yeah. It's funny that I talk about the games because I say that I really wanted to live in that whole lifestyle, I guess, when I was playing those video games. And looking back now, the things that I've done with cars and experiences overall, I've almost recreated every sort of scenario that I put myself in when I was playing those video games as a kid, and now I get to actually live it. And I guess we can sort of get into that as well. With Test Drive Unlimited 2, the start of the game, you're driving a Ferrari California and you have to drive it from point A to point B. And I think really early on, I was 17 or 18, I got the chance to drive a Ferrari California all the way down to Florida and back. And I remember doing that and then thinking holy shit, I'm actually, I'm actually living what I envisioned. And then playing Midnight Club LA where you could customize your own car and stuff like that. Obviously once I got my M3, I had an F80, I was able to put the BBS LMs on it and, wrap it whatever cool color that I wanted to wrap it. So it was interesting how life sort of works in a full circle. Mm-hmm.
Tell us more about that F80 because unfortunately I didn't know you when you had that car.
Yeah.
I met you when you got the Kith.
Yeah.
So I know, and I saw your
cool.
F80 on Instagram back in the day.
Yeah.
I just remember seeing this beautiful pink M3.
Yeah, I was gonna say it was pink, right?
Yeah. So I guess I can walk you through my car history. Starting off with my first car, which was a C4 Corvette, which a lot of people don't know about.
That's, you know, I didn't know that either. That's really cool.
1995 40th anniversary C4 Corvette, and it was in black. And they only made, I think, 1,600 of them in black. I mean, I'm getting very Corvette guy.
I was gonna say it's
very Corvette guy. But so that was my first car, and I remember when we were looking for first cars, like me and my dad. You know, it was like obviously the initial options, which was like Honda and stuff like that. But I saw this beautiful Corvette on Facebook Marketplace for like 5Gs, and I was like, Dad, this is the car. I have to have it. We went to some Toyota dealership actually because the mechanic was the one who was selling it, and drove home with it the same day, and you know that really sparked everything. So it was the Corvette, and then after I sort of blew the engine on that throughout high school and got out of high school, I really wanted something else that was a little more European, and that started because I had a friend, his name's Ruslan, who had a F30. He had an F30. No. It was just an F30 340. I forget what it was.
Yeah, F30 340.
Oh no, it wasn't even 340. It was a 328.
Oh, 328.
Out of all things, but it was full bolt-on stage 2, and you know it made the pops and the bangs. So I was like, I need this. So I went and I bought a non-M Sport Melbourne Red 428i, and because I didn't know anything about BMW, so I was like,
this looks cool.
Oh, this is a cool car. It looks cheap. I can afford it, and I bought that car, non-M Sport package, drove it for 8 months, and then I realized like, wow, I need like an M Sport package, and I need the whole thing.
Those front bumpers are once you notice the difference, it's like
you get the ugly steering wheel too, and plus mine was like Melbourne Red, so it was a pretty girly color. No offense to all those Melbourne Red guys, but so yeah, after that car, I traded it in, got a Honda Civic. In a weird way, I don't know why. I really wanted a manual car, and I liked the Civic hatchbacks.
It was an SI?
No, just a normal Civic.
Just a normal Civic Sport?
Yeah. So I got that, drove manual for like a year, got that itch out of the way, and then bought my 4 Series, which really changed everything for me because that's when I really started to like modify cars and stuff like that I had. So bought a 428 M Sport. It was I don't know the color, it's mineral gray or something.
I think mineral gray would be that dark gray.
With a red interior. And I did full bolt-on stage 2, straight pipes. I did like at some random shop along the shore, and it was super loud. And
that was a 428 or is it
428? Yeah,
again, just a 428.
And I drove that for maybe like 2 years, and then that's when I was like, all right, making a little bit of money, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna buy an M finally. So my best friend was selling his M3, which was like a Secure Red. Or Secure Orange.
Secure Orange, yeah.
I always call it red because
it does look very red.
It is red.
Yeah, it's red.
But I bought that car, and at the time, I remember M3s were trading for, like a nice spec was trading around 75,000, and I bought that car for like 60,000. So I was like, I got to steal whatever. Obviously, we know what happened to that market. So
yeah,
you know, now that car is worth like 45,000.
Yeah, it was up though, like recently. Like I think like a year ago, like they dropped down a little bit and then came back up, and now they're kind of back down again. Same thing. I think all those F Series like 2010s BMWs are
which is a shame. We got the GT.
We have the GT3
GT3
RS out there.
I guess the exhaust is on.
Yeah.
But should we wait for that to pass?
No, we're good.
Okay. So yeah, after I finally got my M, I was super stoked, and I drove the hell out of that car. I drove it everywhere. I put maybe 40,000 miles on it or something like that. Mm-hmm. Had my BBS LMs on it. I got a pink piggy bank and nose tech wrap.
Yeah, tell me more about that color, because was it one of the first, or what was the story?
So there was one other person that put it on a M4 F82, and I didn't actually see that guy with that color. I was looking through the color book at the wrap shop, 7 Wraps, and I saw this pink color. It was like very peachy, like ish, but it was just very beautiful. And I'm like a huge Porsche PTS guy, so I always loved like the PTS colors that they had. And I really wanted something that would resemble like a PTS unique color, and that was the color I ended up picking. Turns out it was the first F80 that was wrapped in that color. So yeah, I bought that car, enjoyed the hell out of it, and then was on a road trip. I was driving home, and I was like, I think it's time for me to upgrade. And I never wanted a G80. I thought they were ugly. I thought, not me, whatever. But I really like clothes. I'm into streetwear. So when I saw that there was a Kith available that's when I was like, okay, maybe this could be an option. Slightly out of my price range, but I was like, I think I can stretch it with a nice down payment. And yeah, there's a whole story actually behind me buying the Kith, which I guess we can get into.
Yeah,
that.
get right into it, because that's one of our.
Yeah, so the Kith was easily. Hold on.
Take that, drink that Celsius right
Celsius
there.
sip.
Celsius sponsor
the
us.
Valves Open
podcast.
We all drink Celsius.
3 years I've been trying to get sponsored, but so the whole Kith story, which I think is a pretty interesting one, is it all started with the road trip back home in the F80. I saw a Kith listed online for $115,000. It was the same exact spec as mine, the frozen dark metallic, I forget what it's called, frozen dark silver, I think it is.
Yeah.
Frozen dark silver. And obviously they only had 3 colors of them for the Kith. There's only 150 made.
It's black, white, and gray, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah, black, white, gray, and then they made a red one for Ronnie Fig, which is like a 1 of 1. So it's all listed online, 115,000, and I was like, I need to have this car. So I hit up Brooklyn Auto Sales, and I texted him. I was like, hey, saw this. Can you help me out? Do a trade-in, whatever. And he did all the numbers. He did everything that I asked him to do. And then my friend texts me and says, hey, instead of buying that Kith M4, buy a GTR and then I'll buy a GTR. And at the time, I don't know, like this split second, I was like, that sounds like a fun idea. Let me buy a GTR instead. So I text the guy at Brooklyn Auto Sales and I was like, hey, I want to buy a GTR. And he didn't really, because he just ran all the numbers, and I was sort of being an asshole by like asking him to redo everything.
Oh, after you already did the Kith.
He put everything up, like he did all this work to get the Kith, like everything situated, and then I changed my mind, and that sort of prolonged the process by like 2 or 3 weeks, and then by the time we actually settled on like, okay, I'm gonna take the Kith like 100%, the car had sold. So yeah, my dreams were sort of shot because I was like so fixated on like having this Kith car now that one sold, and where else am I going to find it? There's only 46 in the States. So now I'm in like a frantic mode to like find a Kith car because like that is what I have my mindset on. And sure enough, a few days later, one pops up on eBay. The guy has no profile picture, 100 reviews, and he has the Kith M4 listed online for $120,000. So I saw that car and I was like,
that sounds insane.
That was actually sick. I was sort of waiting for that to come by. I don't know if the mic picks that up, but
I think it picked it up.
Very nice flyby, GT3 RS. So yeah, I messaged the guy and I said, is this available? And 3 days later, he responds back, yes. That's it. So right away, I started sending him like a million messages, like, please reach out to this broker, because I had already dropped off my F80 to Brooklyn Auto Sales and like already traded in. So I'm like a week without a car now. I'm like really panicking to get this car. And the guy at Brooklyn Auto Sales, he worked like extremely quick. His name's Adam. Worked extremely quick. Like within a day, he contacted the guy, got him settled, I think paid him out, and you know, he texted me, he's like, hey, the car's ready for pickup, but the guy just left on a trip somewhere, like on vacation. So I was like, all right, well, I don't have a car. Like, I need to get that car. And he's like, all right, well, the guy left the keys. More flybys. The guy left the keys in a flower pot at his house. You can go pick the car up whenever. It was in Connecticut. So I drove like 3.5 hours, 4 hours, however long it is, and pulled up to this random guy's driveway.
Picked up the keys from the flower pot.
Looked in the flower pot. There was a set of keys, and the Kith M4 was on the top of the hill, and I drove home that day, and the rest is sort of history. So, the piggy bank M3 was really what got me, like, I guess, noticed in the car sort of world, because it was extremely unique, and no one ever did that before with that car. So, yeah, and then the Kith is just like a whole nother level of like
everywhere we go, everybody just looks at it. Everybody's like, what is that? Oh my god, a Kith.
Yeah,
and they always think it's a CSL.
Yeah, they think it's a CSL. So funny thing with the Kith is when I picked it up, it had 1,000 miles on it, but the guy who owned it did a CSL wrap on the hood like the 2 lines.
Don't know why he did that.
And then he did the CSL like line on the side, and then he also topped it off with the CSL grill. Now I took off all the stickers, but I kept the CSL grill because I'm waiting on Adro to help me out with a front bumper because I want to do the first Adro Kith in the world. So hopefully that comes soon.
What's your biggest pet peeve with that car?
Biggest pet peeve with the car besides for the CSL grill? Like mechanically, like, or just like the way
anything about it. Anything about it.
I don't have any. I love that car.
Even the like no lasers.
The lasers don't bother me. It bothers everyone else but me. I like the lasers. I like how it looks, but I have a real appreciation for how that car was made. You know, a lot of people think it's just like a few stickers and stuff like that, but in reality, if you look at the details of that car,
the interior is unbelievable.
The interior is really detailed with the embossed logos. Obviously, like the stitching, everything is one off to the Kith. And then my favorite part, obviously, is like the carbon roof that has the Kith logo.
It's in the carbon fiber, right?
I thought it was a sticker. When you actually look closely, it's weaved into the carbon.
That's insane.
So it shows the Kith colors with the M logo weaved into the carbon, which is just like insane, especially seeing that from the top down, especially if you're going like an overpass or something. It's insane. So that car has definitely brought me a lot of joy, and I have zero regret, zero pet peeves. And honestly, I'm sort of still at that point where I'm saying like, okay, I'm going to keep that car for the rest of my life and pass it down to my kids. But, you know, there's other cars that are starting to interest me.
So. What's the other cars that are starting to interest you?
I'm right now, I'm like stuck on an R8, and the R8 thing comes back to a childhood thing again. Midnight Club LA, you know, they had this special R8 pack that you had to buy like a Rockstar membership or something. And, you know, I didn't really grow up all off. So, spending however much on a Rockstar membership wasn't even in the question. Like I couldn't afford that. So to get the R8, like I had to buy this thing, and it was always out of reach. So now like me buying an R8 today is like me telling my childhood self, like, we did it. Like, you know, we got the R8.
And I think I was talking about it earlier when we were at Mainline. The R8, like the G80 is a perfect stepping stone towards owning an R8. Yeah, it's like the perfect next car for somebody that's been riding a G80.
Once you have a G80, there's no real going up from there because, like in BMW world, you know, like the next step up is like an M5 competition.
But the M5's honestly like
it's a different car.
It's a completely different car. And they don't hold their value as well as a lot of these M3s at this point.
It's true. Yeah,
they drop down, you know, 50% in value or like over the course of like a couple of years after they're released.
Right.
Whereas these M3s there's 21s and 22s going for $80,000+. And it's crazy because they were cheaper to buy back then than they are now.
Yeah. The M3 market has always like been interesting to me because it goes in waves. It's like when the car is new, it goes down, and then as time goes on, it just keeps climbing. So you see like all the E30s, E36s, even E46s are starting to go on that uptrend. And, you know, I know Shane's trying to sort of maybe sell his, and he's asking like around 30,000 for it, which I think is a very fair price for an E30 these days. So, you know, eventually maybe he'll get that. But right now I kind of also am looking at E36s, like a clean E36, because I think long term it's going to be a $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 car at some point. But, you know, in due time.
So, I was gonna backtrack a little bit. So you said you're ripping a Ferrari California at 17 or 18. How do you find yourself in that situation?
I'm a junior in high school, and my real first job, I wanted to be like a valet driver because I wanted to drive cool cars. All my friends did it who were into cars, and you know, they were talking about like driving Maseratis and shit. Like, because at the time, you know, Maseratis were like, if you saw like a Maserati Gran Turismo,
they used to be
like
so cool.
They're fucking sick. It's like a supercar. So, you know, Dodge Vipers and like all these cars that would pull up to these restaurants. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna be a valet. Became a valet, drove every car I could while I was there, and then when around like high school ended, I was like, fuck, I can't be a valet for the rest of my life. I can't live on cash tips for the rest of my life. Let me figure out how I can still be in cars but get somewhere else. And I landed upon Lamborghini of Palmyra, New Jersey, which was a fun story, actually. I walked in there to apply for a job randomly. You know, hey, can I have an application? Filled it out right there, gave it back to her. She puts it down, and the stack of applications is about this fucking thing.
I can imagine.
Yeah, so I'm walking out, but before I left, I was like, all right, well, I want to go see cool cars. So I walked into the Lamborghini showroom, and I'm looking around. Obviously, I'm like 17, 18. I'm like super out of place. Like I don't belong there. And as I'm about to walk out of the door, there's an older gentleman who was like walking in, sort of. He was sort of floating around like the entrance, and I was about to walk out, and he goes, and I guess I was wearing like a bomber jacket, or he's like, "Oh, that's a nice jacket," and I was like, "Oh, thank you." He's like, "What are you doing here?" I was like, just checking out some cool cars.
I'm in the market.
It's like, I'm leaving though. I'm leaving, and he's like, "Oh, why were you here?" I was like, I was applying for a job actually. And, I'm leaving now. And he's like, "Oh, well, what are you applying for?" I was like, "I don't know, whatever you guys have available." So after talking to him for like another 10, 15 minutes, he's like, "All right, can you follow me?" So I was like, sure, I guess. Didn't know who he was still. Takes me all the way back to the front, takes me into a small cubicle, and there's a door in that cubicle. Opens the door up, and it's this massive office. And I sat down in this massive office with this guy, and I realized quickly who it was. It was Frank Herbeck himself. So, yeah, who obviously owns the oldest Lamborghini dealership in the States. So I sit there, I tell my whole life story up to date to Frank Herbeck. Got pretty emotional because my parents had just gone through a divorce, and, things were pretty hard for me. I was living in a one-bedroom apartment with my mom, and I didn't really have a room. Like I was sleeping sort of in the living room, and I had a piece of cardboard that like held up a sheet that covered my door. So, things were pretty tough in that exact moment, and I really needed something. I didn't care what I did. I scrubbed the toilets. I just needed to get my foot in the door of something that I really liked. And sure enough, after a 30-minute conversation with Frank Herbeck, he said, walked me out to the general manager, said, "This kid is going to work for us now," and hire him like right away.
Wow.
So I got hired on the spot at Lamborghini and started washing cars there. And that was like the beginning of this whole, car thing. So, washed cars there for probably 2 years, but on the side, I learned like little marketing stuff, advertising, Google ads, Facebook ads, things like that. And I presented like a business page, like a 3-pack business page to the general manager. And I was like, "Hey, this is how I can improve your marketing. This is what I want to do. Can we do this?" He was on the phone when I walked in and gave him that packet. But 3 weeks later, he calls me into his office and he says, "Hey, I really like the idea. I want you to become the head of media marketing for the whole company." So,
damn.
Yeah, at a very young age, I became the head of media marketing for Lamborghini New Jersey. And that was like a huge thing to have on my resume. But the Ferrari thing came about was I had a friend who was pretty well off, and he wanted to buy his first car, like his first supercar. So I walked him into the showroom. He ended up picking a Ferrari California, and then maybe like a week later or 2 weeks later, he was like, "Hey, I want to go to Miami, but I want to take the Ferrari. I don't want to ship it. Do you know anyone that can drive it?" I was like, "I think I do. I think I do. I think I have a little experience driving nice cars." So I offered myself to drive it, and I drove all the way to Miami. It was my first time in Miami, actually, with that car. And yeah, drove all the way there.
Yeah, that's a
drove all the way
dream.
back.
17 years old.
Yeah, it was pretty sick.
Was it a California convertible at the time, or was it a hardtop?
It was a convertible hardtop. Yeah, they have a hardtop.
Oh, they do.
Yeah.
I'm not too familiar with California.
It was funny actually because I was driving there, but I had like the guy who owned the car, his luggage. I had my luggage, and then he had his girlfriend with him, so she had her luggage in there. But they flew, and I drove the car down. So I couldn't put the top down because on the Californias there's like the tray in the back. Yeah. So I had to lift the tray up and like shove everyone's luggage in there. I also had like a little bit of cash and a lot of I don't know why the guy shoved the car with like bottles of liquor.
That's great.
Yeah.
So, to put a 17-year-old in the Ferrari full of liquor.
So I remember I was driving and I forget what state I was in. I just got into Florida, and it's nighttime. It's like, when you're young, like you can stay up a long time. So I was driving as much as I could before I would have to sleep, and I like literally slept in the car, like at night. But I wanted to get to Miami. I was like, I don't care how long I have to drive, whatever. So it's like 3 a.m, and I'm flying down 95. I'm going like 130, 140 in this Ferrari, and I'm just like happy as can be. And out of nowhere, I see state trooper parked up right on the side of the road. I fly by him about 130 miles an hour, and right away, my first thing was like, "Fuck!" Slammed on the brakes, and I was freaking out. I was like, "There's no way! There's no way! There's no way!" And then I realized I was like, "I'm in a Ferrari. Like, what the fuck am I doing?" Jammed on the fucking pedal, took off. And that was obviously very stupid, but got off the next toll, and I went to like the furthest right toll booth that I could, and I give the girl the money, and then I see the cop pulling in behind, like coming up the toll ramp. He, for some reason, I don't know how, he didn't see the car parked at the toll booth, and she was like looking at me. The toll girl was looking at me like, "Why are you not moving?" And I'm just like looking back in my rear view. I have the receipt in my hand, and this cop goes in, turns around, and gets back on 95, and
Wow.
I end up parking up in like a parking lot for about an hour to like wait it out, and then I end up taking like a different route. But yeah, that would have been like really, really bad. The car probably would have got impounded.
That's
And
insane.
I would have got some
crazy.
serious points on my license, but that's how that whole Ferrari story came about.
Wow. Well, thank God that you didn't get caught.
Yeah, no, after that, I was pretty chilling. I drove all the way there, had a great week, and then drove all the way back. So
you drove the car there and back?
yeah, I drove the car there and back. The guy didn't care about miles. It was like a
Wow.
whatever you want. Yeah.
Speaking of Californias, I was looking this past week. You said you were at PA Euros, right?
Yeah, it was at PA Euros.
They
Yep.
have a California for sale for like 75.
That's
I've seen people are like sending around everywhere. But
I think even that's expensive.
yeah.
dude,
Like
they're not the
No,
best
yeah.
cars.
Californias are they're fun. They're Ferrari, but it's like
so like what 490 V8.
it's
something
it's
like
nothing
that?
impressive, honestly. Like it's a fun car to get like an entry level Ferrari, but I know they have some serious issues as well.
Issues, and then they're more of a cruiser. They're not like a
Yeah.
Ferrari
Nah,
sports
I mean,
car.
it's the way I see it is like you don't want to spend 70,000 on a car like that because yeah, it seems like you're getting a Ferrari, modern Ferrari for 70,000, but you know, it still carries Ferrari maintenance fees. Like if you take it in for an oil change, it's still going to be expensive. And you know, a lot of people buy these cars, these cheap supercars, not realizing that when you take it to the dealership to get serviced, you're still going to be spending $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 on something sort of basic, you know?
Same thing with like Bentleys and stuff, like Continentals from like 2008 that are
Yeah.
going for like $30,000-$40,000.
Yeah, exactly.
They're luxurious. They're very nice, even though they're pretty old. They're almost 20 years old now.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
you have to go to Bentley to get that W12 serviced. and
Exactly,
it's
right.
not cheap.
No,
I just
not at
saw
all.
one on the way up here. Bro, on the way up to here in Boyertown, I saw an Aventador S Wednesday. I saw a Continental GT today, and I saw a Maybach GLS 600 today. I was like, what are these cars doing up here? It's
Yeah,
kinda
there's a
fun.
lot. And there's a hillbilly meet going on over in Collegeville or something like that. So there's a bunch of supercars
Probably,
that
yeah.
I saw driving by from there as well.
There you go.
But yeah, the maintenance fees on those things are ridiculous.
Yeah, you got to be careful. You got to be careful with those. I remember I was in high school and I really wanted what's wrong, Shane?
We're having some camera issues.
Camera
I just heard the little
All right,
the
we're-
little chime.
We still got main camera. We're good.
we could be on a brief pause and cut it if you want.
Well, we still got the main camera. What, we good?
We're good.
All right.
You just run up.
All right, Leo, you cut and post.
Is that all right? Now since we're here, is
What's
that
wrong
still
with,
good?
What's wrong with that camera?
Yeah, this is good.
It said internal temperature too high. Allowed to
Ooh, overheating.
I guess the room still is hot.
It is pretty hot in
It's
here.
pretty toasty.
But anyways, all right. Moving on from our technical difficulties.
Yes.
What's next on the agenda?
So at the
Pretty
end,
good.
that was like 17, 18. At the end of high school, where would you say you were at in life, and what were you thinking about doing? Like,
Well, I mean, the car thing was still going. You know, once I exited high school and everything,
Right.
and like I said, I got the job at Lamborghini and worked my ass off, and then COVID happened.
okay,
you
so
know.
you was college never a thought for you?
Well, it was. I was really into clothes when I was
Okay.
younger. So I applied to one college and one college only, which was the new school in New York, and that didn't work out too well. They didn't accept me. And I remember that day I was in computer class and I saw an email from them and I was like so hyped. I was like, oh sweet, I'm gonna become like a fashion marketer or whatever. And the email said like, unfortunately we whatever. So as soon as I read that, I was like, all right, fuck college. Like I'm not going. I'm going to work my ass off and try to make the most amount of money I can and, you know, make a future for myself just based off experience that I would, you know, have, which I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't know where I would be, but I just believed that, you know, no matter what I did, I would sort of be successful in it. So yeah, skipped out on college completely. And it was the best decision I ever made because obviously I was able to gain enough experience through that to get to where I guess I am today and have the knowledge that I have today and how to navigate certain situations and, you know, come out on top. So
Yeah, it definitely puts you ahead when you're more in the the real world, because I went to college and luckily I was helping, working for Austin, doing Valvetronic while I was in college. If I didn't do that, I would have went into the world absolutely blind when I graduated in 22. Like I probably would have had no idea really what was going on.
Yeah.
I got my foot in the door in a company and really understood that.
Yeah.
So it's hard for a lot of people to do that, because people go to college, not have a job, not work, not nothing,
for sure.
get out.
I mean, I see all like my old friends, they all went to college. They all did the whole, I guess, system thing. And there's nothing wrong with that, but it sets you behind a considerable amount if you don't do it the right way. The main thing in life is experience, right? And who you know. And if you can spend your 4 years doing that and trying to figure out how to, even if you spend a year just networking and trying to figure out how to experience those sort of situations, then I think it'll propel you way further than college will. Yeah. But everyone's different. You know?
Everybody's different. That's for sure.
Yeah, but also like a lot of people ask me, they're like, what's your advice? I'm in high school or something like that, and I guess my advice always is like, just get your foot in the door, whatever it is. When I first started at Lamborghini, I was washing cars. I was on my knees scrubbing wheels. Like making nothing. Like I think in a 40-hour week, I would make like, I don't even remember, my checks were like $800 or something like that for 2 weeks or something, so I really wasn't making much, and I was just happy to be there, and I really wanted to be around the cars, so did whatever it took to get in. And obviously if you learn and you prove your value, then you'll be rewarded long term. You know?
So COVID hit, and then what happens?
COVID hit, obviously, like nobody had jobs because everyone got laid off.
Yeah, and the dealership, that must have been tough at the dealership.
Yeah, so I mean, at that point, I wasn't even working there, and I had nothing. Like I had no job. COVID was a huge reset for me, and I actually moved down the shore for maybe like 4 months, collected my thoughts, collected everything, and when I came back home, I had nowhere to live. 2, I had no job, and I had a clapped out F32. That was stage 2, full bolts on. So, but I was still happy. And when I got home, my friends had a townhouse. They had an extra room, so I paid $400 a month in rent. And then that month, when I first moved in, I was like, I gotta find a job. So, went on Indeed.com, and I found a place called Luxury Bazaar that was a watch company, and they needed a marketing manager. So I applied, did my interview, used my resume as leverage. That I had worked for Lamborghini. I had been in like a prestigious role and knew what I was doing. And I didn't get the job. Funny enough, actually.
Wow, really? The first
Nobody knows that. So
wow.
I didn't get the job at Luxury Bazaar, but I did. So I'll explain what I mean by that. I got an email saying, unfortunately, we went with somebody else. However, the guy who interviewed me said, I really liked talking to you, and I believe that you'll be a great addition to the company. So I convinced the team to let you on as well as like a secondary, which, seeing back now, there was no reason for him to do that. But whatever reason he thought it was a good idea, he really believed in me to sort of push me to that next level and put me in a position to succeed. So I started at Luxury Bazaar and started doing everything at once, like customer service, also doing marketing, and like running their YouTube and their
just
ads.
kind of see, they're trying to figure out what you're good at.
Exactly right. And over time, I just started sort of selling things slowly because they really did need a little bit of help. They had like a small sales force, and their YouTube was growing so much, and we hit off like a good podcast show that we did. And soon enough, maybe after a year and a half or 2 years, the owner, Roman Sharf, looked at me and he was like, listen, I'm going to take your salary away, and I'm going to put you on commission. I'll give you a little bit of salary, but most of your paycheck is going to rely on your commissions. So as of right now, you're doing sales. So that was like the first entry into sales for me. And I never worked a sales job before in my life, but something clicked. And, the first month, I think I did maybe like 400,000 in sales. The next month I did 800,000. And then a few months later, I was doing $1 million a month in sales. And it just worked out ever since then. So, I went from seeing small paychecks to very big paychecks.
Good, as you should.
But it wasn't without really, really hard work, and nights that I would stay up till 3, 4, 5 in the morning, and then be at the office at 9 a.m. That that's the reason why my income really started to grow, is because I just worked nonstop. I got extremely fat during that time as well, which happens. And it's funny, I was just talking to a friend, and you know, you see all these guys that are very successful. If you look at pictures of them when they first were on the come up, they're fairly overweight. It's because you really have to put your all into it. You can't think of anything else. Everything is sort of pushed behind. There is no priority other than work. And that was my whole thing. So I put everything I had into it, and, you know, slowly over time it got a little bit easier, and I was able to build up some more time to dedicate towards health. So, you know, it's been a good. I've been there for 5 years now.
So, yeah. But there was no interest in watches before that. Like, did you know anything about watches before going into Luxury Bazaar? Or
No. I mean, like, I knew Rolex, like I knew basic stuff like that, but watches never really occurred to me as something that was like a money making thing, right? How do you make money on a watch? You know, so once I started there, I really started to understand watches and, you know, handle them more and say like, okay, this is how much it costs, whatever the case is, this is how you flip it. And, you know, just came from experience, like working there, handling watches. So, you know, the passion sort of grew alongside with cars. Obviously, cars have always been a passion, but watches sort of came into that play once I started working there, and sort of the rest is, you know, history with that.
Are you at the point where you're a watch nerd where you know reference numbers of like everything? Or
I mean, yeah, I've been so involved in the world of watches for the past 4 or 5 years that now it's just like natural. I think I know like a little bit more about watches than I do cars even. But that's just because that's what I do. You know, when I talk to people, I sort of have to know that stuff. So, yeah, now I'm just sort of an expert in watches in a weird way, which I never would have thought.
If you had to give up one of those hobbies, cars or watches, which one would you give up?
I mean, that's tough. The watches pay for the cars, you know, long term, but cars is always going to be like my number one passion. And that's sort of where I've aimed my Instagrams and my social medias to be like cars and watches and combine them together, which I don't think many people have done well. And, you know, I'm trying to still figure that out, but I think slowly I'm starting to do pretty good when it comes to like the car content and watch content mixed together.
There's a triangle. I always talk about this with my friends. There's a triangle of interest that like different hobbies and different aspects of the world have. For cars, it's car guys, watch guys, and gun guys are all kind of in a triangle.
Yeah.
Where if you're into cars, then you're likely also into watches of some kind. Maybe it's not like Rolexes and APs, but like you have an appreciation towards like Tissot or something like that.
Right.
And then you're also likely to be into shooting guns or collecting guns as well. It's a cool thing.
I mean, if you have a nice car and you have a nice watch, you got to protect yourself. So I guess guns is like sort of the next thing up. Right?
We got to go to the range soon.
Yeah, we have a range right across the street from our office, so we go there.
Oh, that's fun.
Classic pistol. Shout out to Luke over there, but yeah. Golf, yeah.
Golf. Well, golf is anything business oriented is kind of golf. Anybody that's in the business world.
Oh yeah.
I'm hard.
Little golf outing, Valvetronic golf outing. Come on,
we gotta do it. Get a custom Valvetronic golf cart.
Valvetronic wrap a golf cart.
I'm trash at golf.
Kith,
I slice it to the right.
Kith actually just made a golf cart.
Really?
Yeah, funny enough.
Are you gonna buy it?
No, no way. I don't like golf. I don't play sports. So,
yeah.
You know, it's no interest.
You hit Top Golf though.
Top golf, yeah. Top golf.
It's a fun time.
Yeah.
You were mentioning like hard work, and obviously that was your priority at all times in all aspects of your life. Is there one like time of the day or some environment that you found yourself most productive in?
No, all day. It's just all I think about. I think everyone's different, but it takes like a certain type of person to really be dedicated to work where it doesn't feel like you're sort of working. You know, I can be subconsciously working 24/7. So obviously, like when people say like, oh, how do you be successful? When people say hard work, like it's a very generic response, but you know, it's hard to explain like what that actually means unless you're the type of person that really, you know, just lives it, I guess. So for me, I get hyper focused on what I'm doing in the moment and what needs to get done. And, you know, I also like to schedule things ahead. So I like to make sure that, you know, the future is also planned out. And the future, I mean, like a few days or a few weeks. Because with watch sales, it's very time sensitive, right? Someone sends a wire for $100,000. They expect a watch maybe tomorrow, depending on the type of watch it is, right? So I sort of have to plan that out. And so, yeah, I mean, hard work is just whenever it comes up, I guess.
Do you have an all-time favorite watch?
Yeah, 6702. Richard Mille Alexis Pinro. Edition. So it's a white carbon NTPT watch that has a elastic strap. And I think that watch kind of plays into like the whole car thing because it's full carbon fiber. Well, NTPT, which is like a sort of type of carbon fiber.
Yeah, that actually brings up another point that Leo and I were talking about in preparation for this podcast was the car and watch collabs that have gone on.
Yeah.
I know you have a list. I don't know if you want to go through.
I wrote some down. I had
let's go through them.
Richard Mille and McLaren.
That is a really insane collab because basically to buy the RM McLarens, you had to buy the car. So they made the Speedtail, and then they came out with the Richard Mille's Speedtail version of the car, of the watch, which I don't remember the reference number off the top of my head, but to buy that watch, you had to buy a however many $1 million car. Same with the 1103 McLaren. You had to buy, I forget what McLaren it was. You had to buy a certain McLaren to get that watch. So
was it 765 LT?
I think it was.
Yeah.
I think it was one of those cars. Yeah, it wasn't a Senna or anything like that. So, but yeah.
I had Grand Seiko and GTR.
Honestly, I don't really pay attention to Grand Seiko like that.
There you go.
Grand Seiko is a great brand. It's just not a lot of people go for it. Secondary, I guess, because I'm a secondary dealer. So if you're buying a Grand Seiko, most times you're just going straight to the authorized dealer. But I didn't know they did a collaboration with Nissan.
Yeah, I was just looking.
Pretty sick.
Yeah,
pretty sick.
And then there's a ton of like F1 based watches, correct?
Sort of. Richard Mille has a lot of partnerships with F1 drivers.
Okay.
So you'll see a lot of Piece Uniques, which is one of one watches that like Lando Norris will wear, or
They're so cool.
Daniel Ricciardo will wear, or things like that. So the biggest one is like tennis, though. Like tennis and Rafa Nadal, they've had like a long-lasting relationship between them two. So you'll see like a lot of Rafa Nadal RMs.
Interesting.
But it's tennis.
Do those drivers get to keep those watches forever, or is that like a kind of a loan kind of thing?
I don't really know. It's never been talked about. Like nobody talks about if I would assume they get to keep them forever. I mean, notoriously, like Lando Norris keeps getting his watch stolen, like his Richard Mille.
Really?
There's that video of Lando Norris like chasing the people that stole his RM off his wrist.
Really?
But I think he's on like RM number 3 or 4 that's been stolen. Yeah, he just keeps getting them stolen. I don't know.
How does he get them?
That has to be a.
Well, it's a very easy watch to steal. It weighs less than a piece of like paper, essentially, like a pack of papers. Like, so if you're wearing that watch, there's no real feeling on your wrist, so someone could easily just like swipe it off, which is interesting. Arm's very, very lightweight, so you won't really notice it.
Yeah. And then Verstappen is what? He's Tag
Heuer.
I was gonna say.
Tag Heuer does fantastic watches for Formula One.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I held like someone let me take a look at they had like a Red Bull F1 tag.
Yeah. Tag Heuer makes just fantastic watches. First off, but the car collaborations they do are really nice.
Yeah.
The watches are a little big for me, but I have like smaller wrists. But overall, fantastic watches, and you can get like an F1 watch that resembles your favorite team for not a lot of money. So Richard Mille is $300,000-$400,000, whereas a Tag Heuer is a couple $1,000s at most. So you can still represent your team without having to like cough up a lot of money.
And they look really good.
And they look really good, exactly. Yeah. So.
And then another watch collab I have to mention just because we're here at Valvetronic. All you guys wear the Omega Swatch watches.
That's a fantastic watch.
Did Austin get you guys into that? Where did those come around?
I think Austin and Shane went to Japan and they got like them before they were released. Shane, correct me if I'm wrong. It was before they hit the American market that you got them in Japan.
No, they were.
Or they just weren't. They weren't easy to get here, but they were easier to get in Japan.
It was easier to get the Neptune in Japan.
I gotcha.
Nobody really bought that one, but
Yeah.
released a ton since we went.
So I have a funny story with the Omega Swatch. I remember when they first came out with like the press of the Omega Swatch, everyone was so hype about it. It was like, holy shit, you can buy an affordable Speedmaster essentially because it looks the same. It's just plastic. And so I did what any normal watch person would do, and I camped outside of King of Prussia for overnight to get this watch. So I started at 10 p.m. The store opened at whatever time the mall opens. I think like 11 a.m. And I think I was number 53 in line, and they cut the line at 56. So all the people that were waiting behind me the whole night were just out of a watch. Like nobody can get that watch. And it's funny, I had a friend that was also in line with me, like like literally one spot after they cut the line.
Oh.
So, but anyways, so I get to the front door and I'm like near and we're very excited. You can only get one per person. I had me and then like one other friend that was going to buy it for me so I could like resell them because I flip watches.
Yes.
But the guy that was in front of me goes, "Hey, if you're going to sell the watches, sell them to me. I'll give you $1,500 as soon as you walk outside of the door. Retail's $250." So literally, as soon as I walked out of this watch store, I walked over to like a little spot in the mall, and the guy sent me an e-check for $3,000 for two of them.
That's
And,
crazy for a $250
yeah,
watch.
I went home and I slept, and that was like my story with the watch.
Successful day.
Yeah, I was like, I'm gonna get this watch back in like 3 months from now for retail, anyways, which I did ultimately.
Yeah,
get.
we all did.
Yeah, so you know, that was a nice little come up on that release.
They're cool. I don't really wear it that much. It's a little light for me actually. I
Really?
need to have like a weight on my arm.
No.
But yeah, when they came back, Austin bought one for Shane. No, Shane, you bought yours. Austin bought one for Phil, and then
For my dad.
yeah, you bought one for your dad. And then they started wearing them around. And they're cool. And then all of a sudden, I saw the Mission to Mars, and I thought that the white
one.
with the red was cool just to have.
Yeah.
They're not super expensive, so it's not like you're going and buying like a crazy watch that you feel obligated to wear. It's like
Right.
it can sit on my nightstand and look pretty cool.
Yeah.
And I can wear it when I want. But I ended up getting that, and then now Katie and Heidi, Austin bought them some. So Katie has a pink one. Heidi has the Mission to Pluto, and then Peyton has a Mission to Earth or something like that, or no, not Mission to Earth. They did like a desert. There's like a desert and then a water and then like items on Earth kind of cloud.
I don't know. Yeah,
but he has one.
They've been coming out with a lot more colors. Specifically, the white one is sick. But
Yeah, the Snoopy. That's
I mean,
awesome.
I had one for like 2 months and then I broke it and I never picked it up again. So
That's another thing too. I'm afraid whenever I press the chronograph, like I feel like it's gonna snap.
yeah, exactly. It's not the most durable watch, but you know, a lot of people that have very nice watch collections wear that watch every day. It's not a bad watch at all. So, you know, if you're thinking about a cheap watch to get, Omega's watch.
Have you been to Switzerland?
No, I've actually only been out of the country, like properly out of the country, like once, and that was to
Okay.
deliver a watch to New Zealand,
Yeah.
which I actually turned that into like a whole car thing as well. So my client out in New Zealand, he has a what is it?
765 LT.
765 LTXP. So it's the experimental project.
Yeah.
There's only 3 of them in
Okay.
the world. One of them is in New Zealand, and that's his. So he picks me up from the hotel on that, and he's like, "We're gonna have a car day." So he takes me to Porsche to pick up his new GT4 RS. He had his Speedster there, which was a red Speedster. And then he's like, "Surprise, we're going to spec my GT3 RS here as well."
Damn.
So I helped him spec his GT3 RS there, and he actually just took delivery of it, which is very cool because I was able to like pick things. So after that Porsche experience, I was like, "This is amazing. That's the best trip ever." And he's like, "All right, we're going to go to Ferrari and spec my 296 now."
What did this dude do?
Doesn't sound like a bad
he sold like
day.
a tech company many years ago. But yeah, so we went to Ferrari, we spec'd this 296, and I got to pick out like the wheels and shit like that. So it was really cool to be able to experience that while I was like working sort of. So yeah, I've never been outside the country besides for New Zealand and like Mexico and like Canada and stuff like that. But you know, nothing too crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, could you educate me on like the whole experience and everything that goes into a Swiss watch, like the complexity and all that stuff? Like,
Yeah.
why is someone spending 40, 60, 80, $100,000 on a Swiss watch?
Yeah, I mean, listen, it really comes down to the brand. Like I just did a video on this actually on my Instagram. The cost of these watches, especially for Rolex, they've been making the same watch for so long, like a Daytona, for instance. So what it is basically it's the same design. Like nothing's really changed, right? But the components just sort of upgrade every single few years, and they have their processes in place. They still do their same development processes. So the development costs for these watches are like basically nothing at this point, because they've had it for so many years. They develop it to the point where it costs them nothing to develop new watches. So the cost of these watches are actually very low, like $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 for a Swiss watch, but they sell for retail, you know, 20,000, 10,000, whatever it is. And then obviously secondary market, it's a considerable amount more. Specifically for Daytonas, it's like 2x more for a steel Daytona, which is around like 30,000. But for someone to actually spend that much on the watch, it really just comes down to the brand. You know, like you're buying a Rolex, it's like a status thing, right?
Yeah. I mean, everybody when I was growing up, anybody that was successful
Yeah.
had a Rolex on.
Yeah, exactly. So for that question, it really doesn't come down to the actual watchmaking. It just comes down to the brand. But obviously there is brands like Lange and Son, and there's very like independent brands like Urwerk and things like that. There's a bunch of brands I can list, but just random names to you guys.
Well, isn't there just throwing in another like watch collab, and I think is this an independent brand like Jacob and Co with the Bugatti W16?
So Jacob started as a jeweler actually. He was doing jewelry. I mean, this is as far as I know, but and then obviously he started making watch movements and whatnot. But his actual watches, I'm pretty sure they're just like outsourced movements. Like it's like nothing's in house. So people that are spending a lot of money on very fine watches that are made by like Vacheron or like Lange or brands like that, these are brands that make their parts in-house. So you're getting like top quality. It's like buying an Aston Martin, right? Mm-hmm. Why do people still buy Aston Martins? Because they're handmade. Yep. You know, the quality isn't as good as I don't know, name something like a
Ferrari.
Yeah, or even like a Rolls Royce. Like,
Rolls
you know,
Royce.
Why do people still spend $500,000-600,000 on a Rolls Royce coupe? You know, it's because it's handmade. So it's the same thing you can apply it to watches. Like these are handmade watches that are very well detailed. So, you know, that's why someone might spend that much on a watch.
You're buying the experience. You're buying the brand name.
Exactly, yeah.
You're buying the
There's a whole
status.
mixture of things that go into why someone would spend so much on a watch.
Yep.
But also rarity. You know,
yeah.
Rarity is a big thing. So,
100%.
What's the coolest watch you've ever had on your wrist?
On my wrist? Ooh. Cool how? Like cool in terms of price tag or
No, cool in your opinion. It doesn't have to be based on price. It's just like, damn, like I'm so happy that I was able to put that on my wrist.
It's a tough one. I'm not gonna lie, it's gonna take me some thinking. But man, I would want to say from like a horological standpoint, there's like Urwerk. It's a very nice brand. I mean, just like I'm saying these, but
you know, it's okay. We'll look it up after.
But yeah,
and we'll overlay it on the
from like a wow standpoint was like I had an RM Sapphire on my wrist, which is about like $4 or $5 million. It was a brown sapphire RM, so we had that in for like just a few pictures. But there is watches that I've seen that are one of ones. You know, the only one in the world, or like crazy high complications, which is just like, you know, there's like alarm bells ringing and whatnot. Striking times at work, like things like that. So there's so many different levels to it. It's tough to say exactly which one is like the craziest that I've had on my hand. But yeah, the RM Sapphire is probably the most expensive I've had on my hand to go based off that, which, like I said, about $4 million. Basically a Koenigsegg.
Yeah, on your wrist.
On your wrist, yeah.
Freaking crazy.
Yeah, it's pretty insane.
So then you're also based in Miami, correct?
So I have an apartment in Miami. I'm not based there, but I do go, I guess, back and forth from here in Miami. I was traveling to Miami so often to do watch deliveries because I have a lot of clients that are there, and it's a good vacation spot for clients to go to. So over time, I realized that like instead of paying $1,400 every time I go down there, sometimes I would go down there like 3 weekends in a row. I'd better off just getting an apartment to rent down there, and I can also write that off of my taxes because when I go down there, it's for business. So, you know, Miami's a really great place for me.
I mean, I feel like for cars and watches, there's few places better in the world.
Yeah, I always end up in a cool car whenever I'm in Miami. Just the opportunity presents itself. You know, there's so many in such a small area. There's so many supercars there. Anyone that's been to Miami knows, you know. And I remember one time I wanted to do like a test, so I put up on my story, looking to drive a supercar, please DM me. And like in Miami, it was like 9:00 at night, just a random story for fun. Not even 5 minutes later, my friend calls me. He goes, yo, I just bought a Ferrari. He's like, where are you at? I was like, I'm here. He's like, all right, I'm coming. He saw my story and he pulled up, and, you know, 20 minutes after I posted that story, I was driving a 488 down the street in Miami with downpipes. So, you know, Miami's just like not even a real place. Just anything is possible.
Vice
it's a
City.
GTA lobby.
It is, yeah. It's literally a GTA lobby down there. So, you know, you can see Bugattis, Koenigsegg's just casually parked up on the side of the road, and it's really not a big deal.
All right, have you been to LA for anything business related or non?
I was in Newport, California. Okay. That was the first time and only time I've ever been in California. Drove a GT3, just a normal GT3 down there, and you know that was cool.
991.
I don't know. I don't remember. 997. No.
It was an older one or
no? It was a newer one. 99.
Probably 992.
Yeah, 992.
992.
Yeah. So it was a 992 GT3. That was my first time really getting behind the wheel of a GT3 and like being able to push it. And
Manual?
I'm not gonna lie, no, it was automatic. It was pretty
Okay.
it was pretty boring.
Yeah, the PDK is good.
Yeah,
pretty-
PDK's fun.
It was pretty boring. I'm not gonna lie. I just like hit it and I'm just driving in a straight line. I'm like, wow, this is fast, but I'm like, there's nothing
Well,
else to it.
The GT3 Tourins, like when you can get them with the manual, I've heard they're so fun. Like
My
just
friend
engaging.
had one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, have you seen the new? I mean, I know you've seen it, the ST.
The ST is fantastic.
That's
That looks like an amazing car.
It
I don't
looks-
know what that is.
it's so
It's a 911 ST.
limited 911 ST. It's one of it's. I know it's under 1,000. I forget exactly.
Yeah, there's
what
not
the
many
number
of
is.
them. There's really
Yeah.
not many of them.
But it's like lightweight, super lightweight flywheel. Like
I heard it's like the best 911 they've ever
it's
made.
the best,
Really?
most
Yeah. I gotta look that
engaging.
up. I'm gonna
It's
look
like a
that up.
GT3 Touring, but just taken to the next level. Like straight. I don't think it's straight cut gears, but like the gearbox and the trans is super locked in. It looks sick.
Yeah.
I'm gonna check that out because
Yeah.
I'm actually curious now.
Yeah, it's a
That's
cool
so
car.
sick.
It's a cool car.
And it's kind of like a tribute. Like you can get like a heritage pack, just like the tribute to RS pack.
Yeah,
on
no,
the-
it's cool.
Yeah,
It's really
sick.
cool. So.
Is there anything that you've driven, like just in general, that have like blown you away? Best car you've driven?
The coolest car I've driven that was like very just unique was a Diablo SV.
Ooh,
That's
Like,
cool.
That was like a really cool thing for me
Yeah.
because like when are you ever going to be able to drive a Diablo SV, you know? So I drove that at the dealership. But in terms of coolness, like a lot of the cars that I go through are just the same cars, like McLaren, Lambo, Ferrari, and there's not many models of them, so it's all like the same shit.
Yeah.
You know what I would really like to drive is like an old Porsche, you know, like a 930 turbo or something like that. Like,
Yeah.
those I think are very cool to drive, but really nothing too crazy. Like Aventador SVJ, like Aventador SV, like I've driven. So obviously those are like some of my favorite cars, the SVJ especially.
I was just gonna say, do you like the SVJ? Because I've heard a ton. I was talking with a guy that had one. He said he had it for a flex. He
Yeah.
hated how it driven. It's such a flex
Yeah.
car. That's my dream car.
I believe that people that say that are not actual car guys.
They don't enjoy the
They
raw
don't-
feeling.
That's what I was-
because
the single clutch is
the emotion behind that car is unlike anything you will ever see in your life or feel in your life. Like that is a very emotional car. You have to be very connected to it.
Yeah.
So when you're driving an SV or an SVJ, like that's pure emotion. That's driving at its purest form. You know, it's not a crazy track weapon, but it's something that really gives you feedback and emotion like none other.
yeah.
So, you know, if someone says it's just a flex and that's just how they are, they're not really a car guy.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like
Yeah.
the single clutch is like it's what
Yeah, it's
it's
supposed to-
so attractive.
Yeah, it's supposed to feel rough, you know,
Yeah.
it's supposed to feel like that. So, you know, you're not driving a Bentley,
Yeah.
SVJ.
And then so I think I saw you around here at the grand opening, and
Yeah.
you mentioned it at the beginning. Your dog.
Oh yeah, I just have like a little French bulldog, Fluffy.
Is that what it is?
Fluffy French bulldog. Yeah, I named him Senna after Ayrton Senna,
There you go.
racing driver. So
Are you an F1 fan? Do you watch F1?
I just got into it like maybe a year ago. I'm not the biggest F1 fan, but I also don't really like watch a lot of TV or anything because I'm always working or working out at this point. But yeah, I enjoy F1. I went to Miami F1 for the first time, and that was a fucking experience and a half.
I'm jealous.
Yeah,
To go.
you like it's unlike anything you will ever experience in your life. It's fucking crazy in person. So that was very cool as a car guy to be able to go to F1 race and you know.
Next year I'm going.
Yeah,
I'm
100%.
marking it in my calendar. I gotta
100%
go.
we'll go.
There
100%.
you go.
Yeah.
So I kind of want to wrap it up here with what are the goals for the future for
Man.
in the car world and the business watch world. What are
Yeah.
the overall goals?
So in the car world, I really want to get to a point where I have like my daily and then my very fun car. I think a two car collection is like perfect. Like, you don't need more than that.
What are those two
unless
cars?
you're really collecting. I was just talking to Shane about this actually. It's tough. I would love to have some sort of like Bentley or Rolls Royce ish, like a
comfy car.
granddad comfy car where I don't hear any road noise, and then I want something like crazy raw, and obviously shooting a little bit upwards here, like an SVJ, like something that has real emotion to it. And but for now, I'll probably get an R8 next or a GT3, and at some point get like a classic Porsche as well. I think that's a pretty cool one. But for the future, it's sort of, I don't know. We'll see where it goes. I'm just working my head off right now, and you know, I don't think I'm going to stay in PA. I really want to move down to Miami full time, and hopefully, you know, open something down there as well. We're thinking about getting a storefront down there. We're just taking a little bit of time to find one, but you know, we'll find one eventually, and then I'll run that whole store in Miami, and I also want to hopefully open a company sometime soon with something that isn't watches. I want to start something that's I actually care about, that's mine. Past watches, maybe something to do with cars. So we'll see. Yeah.
Sweet.
Just for now, keep working hard.
Cool.
Yeah.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for coming, Alex. Appreciate you coming.
Thank
here.
you guys for having me.
Hope you had a good time, and it was great to get to talk to you about everything.
Yeah.
To the audience, thank you guys for watching episode 3. We'll be back again with episode 4, hopefully very soon. Thank you for watching. Peace.
Peace.